This week in games, should Kojima go back to working on Metal Gear? Amazon's Lord of the Rings game is almost done. Unionization in the games industry met with layoffs and so much more. This is the Two Penny Gamescast. What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the Two Penny Gamescast, episode 206. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friend and co-host. Say hello to the people. You know I'm about to fucking jump into you. And you take a sip of fucking water? Say hello to the people, Connor Elliott.
For the record, I took a sip in a way where I'd be done with it before he let me say something.
But why even take the risk? What if it went down the wrong pipe?
It's not going to. I never go down the wrong hole. I just don't.
This is, of course, the Two Penny Gamescast, your weekly video game podcast in which me and Connor come to you with the nerdy news you need to know concerning the video game industry. We each come to you with two topics, two pennies, if you will, and give you our 2 cents on them. You okay over here? You having a
clearing my throat.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah? Good job muting the mic. Some fucking troll for once, you know?
I've done this pretty well. I'll mute myself when I...
Yeah, actually you have, you know.
Yeah,
but there's just been times where you haven't, you know.
Yeah.
And I've had to slap you around a little.
And those are the ones you remember.
Yeah, exactly. You know, you're right. I should give you more credit. You know what, Connor? I want to give you a compliment. I think this podcast has been going superbly for months now. It has, and I think that's to you. I think we've developed like fantastic chemistry, and I think it's been going very, very well over here. You're muted.
I did it on purpose.
Did you?
I did.
If you saw it, because you had a shitty little smile, and I was about to slap you silly. Ladies and gentlemen, you can get this podcast every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. But of course, you could watch us record this podcast live the day before. That's right. Monday, twitch.tv/2pennygames. Sometime in the afternoon, we go live and record all of our podcasts every week. That includes the Piggy Bank. That includes reviews. That includes what will be conveyed at the end of this episode if you're watching the full podcast on YouTube or listening on mainstream podcast services. The Two Penny Game Club, which is our monthly video game book club in which we review games of yore and rank them amongst each other. We've done games such as The Last of Us, Metal Gear Solid, God of War Ragnarok. We've done Fable. We've done Chrono Trigger. We've done Final Fantasy VII. We've done Yakuza 0. We've done so many more. Go check out the playlist. And at the end of this episode and this month's episode, if you just want to go watch the breakout, which is already live on the YouTube channel. Dear God, already live on the YouTube channel. We are reviewing Dead Cells. So you got to make sure to stick around or watch the breakout, youtube.com/@2pennygames to find out how we felt about the 2018 indie smash Dead Cells.
We thought a way about it.
We felt a way about it. You got to watch it to find out. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is not all we'd like you to do. We would, of course, like you to like, subscribe, follow, and check out our socials down in the description below. But most importantly, we would like to hear your thoughts, your pennies, your 2 cents. Drop a comment down below. Let us know how you felt about today's show, the topics we covered, and any topics you would wish we had covered, or some evergreen topics, maybe favorite video games, least favorite video games, how we feel about certain trends going on in the gaming industry, etc., etc. Please drop your thoughts and comments down below, and I will pull those comments and use them as an audience 2 pennies in next week's episode. Connor, how's your week been, my friend?
It's been good.
Yeah?
I've been playing Erd Tree, Shadow of the Erd Tree.
Review next week.
I love it.
Yeah?
Spoiler. Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess you don't gotta fucking watch that. No, we're kidding, of course. Subscribe and watch that review next week. I'm sure it's gonna be a fun one. I probably gotta train you on how to operate all the cameras and stuff so that I don't have to be a part of that and I can go and fucking be myself for once and just not have to carry you slime bugs on my back every fucking week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nice. It'll be nice.
I'm sorry, Connor. That was rude. I've had a rough week. It's been a tough week. You know, it's been a lot going on in real life. We don't got to get into it here. But I've had a great time playing video games, Connor. Working my way to that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth Platinum. We're so close. I've just started the game on hard, so I just got to play the whole game on hard, and then I'm there.
Were you playing on your PlayStation Portal?
No. PlayStation 5. No, there was no Wi-Fi where I was at this weekend.
Yeah.
So that did not happen. Phil in the Twitch chat says, yes, Mass Effect. That is a delayed comment because I didn't see it until just now, where we were talking about what you may or may not have decided to have us play on the Game Club, because maybe that was already recorded before this. You can find out, twitch.tv/2pennygames. Was it Mass Effect? Who knows? Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough of that. It is time to get to the first topic of the day, our first penny of the day. Connor, it is your first penny, and it's a heavy one. So get ready for a little bit of reading here. We got kind of two topics combined into one. So go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Well, this first article is going to be from WindowsCentral.com. This is from Samuel Tolbert. Another Bethesda studio at Xbox is unionizing.
Shit.
Fuck. Oh, look at that.
Gotta pay attention.
God. What you need to know. Just read the article.
Read the article.
Unionization continues to spread across the Xbox organization. The latest team to begin unionizing is Bethesda Game Studios Montreal, one of the 4 offices that make up the iconic developer behind games and franchises like Fallout, The Elder Scrolls, and Starfield. Bethesda Game Studios Montreal is unionizing with CWA Canada as One Boss MTL and has filed with the Quebec Labor Board.
BGS
MTL. The team is currently awaiting approval from the board. Quote, as a union, we will strive to make BGS a supportive workplace that fosters creativity and talent. This will allow us to keep creating some of the best video games in the industry, in the jobs, and at the studio we all love, end quote. One BGS MTL stated on Twitter. Having a seat at the table will ensure job security as well as improved transparency, accountability, flexibility, and more. We aim to make sure everyone receives fair compensation for their work and the value they provide. End quote. Right now, Bethesda Game Studios is developing The Elder Scrolls 6 while continuing to work on updating Fallout 76, as well as preparing the launch the Starfield Shattered Space expansion later in 2024.
Rich, of course, you're very excited to play this year.
Rimming.
I'm sure. Yeah. Because you are the world's #1 Starfield fan. But Connor, that's not what's important right now. What is important is that this is great. This is a great step. This is what we want. This is how we counter the immense greed that is poisoning this industry. This is how we counter the huge amount of layoffs that we've had over the past year, 2 years, 3 years. And this is how we counter things like studio closures happening and how we continue to create job security and workplace health being upkept within the industry. So congratulations to Bethesda Game Studio, a studio that absolutely needed something like this after the heavy cuts they faced earlier this year from Microsoft and Xbox Game Studios as a whole.
And that's kind of key, because if you can jump into the next story, I think it combines very well. Because while that is nice to hear, you have to remember what it is you're exactly dealing with. This is from the Idaho Statesman. Activision supplier laid off 160 video game testers in Boise. They allege retaliation.
Just boys.
Boys. Yeah. This is from Angela Palermo. More than 150 video game testers who worked at Lionbridge in Boise were laid off in April. The workers say they were fired in retaliation for trying to unionize. Lionbridge employees test and provide feedback on some of the most anticipated video games long before they're released to the public. The company has testing sites in Boise, Mexico City, and Warsaw, Poland. The 160-person team Lionbridge laid off in Boise on April 18th provided quality assurance services to Activision, a Microsoft subsidiary and leading developer, publisher, and distributor of video games, including the Call of Duty franchise. Communications Workers of America, a national labor union, filed unfair labor practice charges against Lionbridge with the National Labor Relations Board on June 10th, alleging the workers were fired for raising issues regarding their working conditions and, quote, engaging in protected organizing activities, end quote, according to a news release. Lionbridge offered the employees a severance package that required them to agree to, quote, overly broad confidentiality terms and to waive rights safeguarded by the National Labor Relations Act, the union said. Lionbridge did not respond to multiple calls and emails requesting comment. One worker who was laid off, Al Busabarger, told the Idaho Statesman that his team was told the reason for termination was that the project they were working on had ended, but other teams engaged in the same project in Mexico City and Warsaw continued to work, the union said. Busabarger had said he did not accept the severance package. Some workers made $14 an hour. As a test associate working the night shift, Busabarger made $15 an hour. Other employees who worked the day shift made less, starting at $14 an hour, he said. Quote, other similar job roles paid more money, he said by phone. So we thought we were entitled to more for the work we did. We were also fed up with the attendance and paid off time policies, which were getting radically changed, end quote. Busabarger said a number of employees on the team were classified as temporary, including some who had been there for years. Those employees did not receive health care or retirement benefits. The employees worked in person at Lionbridge's office at 577 North Meeker Avenue in Boise. Busabarger declined to discuss certain aspects of the job, citing a non-disclosure agreement. The team that was laid off was the largest at Lionbridge's Boise site. Its members worked on what Busabarger called the, quote, big project. More than 100 people assigned to other projects still work at the site, he said. He recalled a project-wide meeting that occurred a few weeks before the layoffs, at which employees on his teams voiced concerns about their working conditions. Not long after, corporate executives visited the Boise office, inquiring with project managers as to whether there was union activity or support, he said. Quote, our site was specifically shouted out multiple times by our client because we were picking up slack from the other sites and doing a really good job, he said. We had higher ratings, so it seemed very abrupt, end quote. James Joyner, who was also laid off, started working at Lionbridge as a temporary employee in July 2022. They were promoted a few months later to senior test engineer and became a full-time employee. Joyner was promoted again last December to quality assurance test lead, where they oversaw two teams on the day shift and night shift. Joyner told the Statesman employees would bring complaints to them, and they would try to help resolve the issues with upper management. Joyner cited poor pay and a lack of communication and transparency as major issues. Quote, this has been a long-standing battle for us, Joyner said by phone. Back when I started, we had tried to unionize. The day before they were laid off, workers were told to not come in the following day because of scheduled server maintenance. Joyner and Busabarger said they were emailed a phone number that they were supposed to call to learn whether they could come in, but when they called that number, they were given an automated message telling them they had been laid off, they said. Fuck. The company then sent them emails with details about the severance package. After the layoffs, Joyner created a Discord group to chat with other workers who had been affected. The group grew to around 100 members, and they started helping each other find new jobs. There was also a second Discord group that Joyner found out about and joined after the layoffs. In that group, workers had been discussing efforts to unionize, Joyner said. Quote, I cared about a lot of these people, Joyner said. We came together as sort of a small community to help each other out, and we would discuss what happened. Their official reason for laying us off was that it was the end of a temporary project, but we all knew that didn't seem right. So, you know, when you have stories like them seemingly to promote unionization, you have things like this. Key thing is that one of them is in Canada, one of them is the United States. I'm not familiar with unionization in Canada, but I take a pretty, educated guess based off how our system works, which is very antagonistic towards unions, that it's probably easier to do so in Canada than it is here. And, here's why. You could basically come up with whatever reason you want to justify laying people off, even if the reason is that they wanted to unionize and you're punishing for it. All you have to say is, no, it's this other thing. And there's no real oversight to make sure that that's actually what you were being fired for. And so, Microsoft has shown as a whole company, they're not really invested in keeping jobs on. They could possibly cut your job at any point in time just because they have some vague, nondescript reason as to why they're doing it. And unfortunately, I think we're just going to continue to see stories like this. The more people realize that unionization is one of the key ways to defeat a lot of, as you pointed out, the greed, the overworking that happens in the games industry.
But it's, of course, not the only thing that we need, because obviously it was talks of happening over here, and they were punished for it. And also now unions are getting involved in the problem here, of course. So now we're facing consequences against these actions. But it might be a little bit too little too late because, of course, over 100 people have lost their jobs. This is really, really tough and really frustrating. I want to give a shout out to people in the chat. Acosta, Ragged9819, Kala Sabra, all in the chat. Thank you for joining here today. I want to give a dishonorable shout out to one the Phil Shoe. It's definitely pronounced Boise, he says. Let me learn you something, young man. No, it's not. It's boys. You just got timed out.
I think he's right.
No, he's not.
I think I was originally right as well.
No, you're not. I promise you.
We'll find out.
It's boys.
We'll find out.
It's boys.
We'll find out.
Anyways, back to the topic at hand. Yeah, of course. And then, of course, this being a studio that is a smaller support studio working underneath Microsoft just continues to show you that, man, Microsoft is just in a very, very dark place right now. The Microsoft that we want them to be, that Phil Spencer seems to promote, is not one that is reality. You know, in reality, they are a major third-party publisher that is being pushed by their greed, and it's just unfortunate and really disappointing that this is what's going on.
And when it comes to unionization, there is pretty much no reason why a company would want that to be a thing to deal with, because it really is just a extra step to laying people off, to deciding how much they get paid, to deciding how many hours they get. You know, it's way easier just to not have a barrier to decide what they can and can't do to their employees. And so they only have the incentive to fight against it. It'll limit the amount of money they make, because possibly it'd have to make them, you know, pay their workers more, and so other people have to take cuts, the bigwigs. It's an enemy to a company, and when you see such aggressive tactics to try and put that kind of stuff down, it's really no surprise, especially with a company like Microsoft, which has shown its greed a number of times, just in this year alone. So unfortunately, I feel for these workers and hope it doesn't become an even bigger problem, even though I know it will.
Indeed. Mm-hmm. But hopefully we can find our way out of it. Now, speaking of finding a way out, Connor, sometimes it might be appropriate to find our way back in. We, of course, are moving on to our second topic of the day, my first penny of the day. Konami producer says it would be the dream for Kojima to return to Metal Gear. This is coming from VGC Andy Robinson. Konami's Metal Gear series producer has said it would be the dream for the company to work with Hideo Kojima and other development staff again. Noriaki Okamura Okamura made the comment during a Japanese live stream on Friday with the caveat that he wasn't assuming Kojima and his former colleagues would necessarily feel the same way. Kojima split from Konami in 2015 following a mysterious falling out following the conclusion of Metal Gear Solid 5. Conclusion is a strong word. While Kojima still regularly talks about Metal Gear, he no longer has any control over the property. However, it would appear that tension between the pair may have cooled in the years since. Asked if there was any chance of original staff members working on Metal Gear again during Friday's live stream, Konami producer Okamura replied, quote, "It's not my place to answer on behalf of anyone outside the company or to guess how they might feel about it. But just speaking for myself personally, I'd like nothing more than to work with Mr. Kojima and the rest of the team again. If that can happen, it would be the dream. But people have moved on to new things and new commitments, so that's just our current reality. We can't just take for granted that everyone would work with us again or let ourselves be completely dependent on them." He added, quote, "I just don't think it's right for us to be the ones that make that kind of demand of anyone. So we're working with the expectation that whatever we make, it's up to us. It's on our shoulders to do a good job." According to Okamura, many staff from the original Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater development team are already working on the upcoming remake. The main external developer working on the game is Virtuous. Okamura himself was a producer for many Metal Gear spin-off games, including Metal Gear Acid 2, Metal Gear Solid Digital Graphic Novel, Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops Plus, and Metal Gear Survive. The best game in there is Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops, from what I can tell. Never played it myself. Watched all the cutscenes online. Wasn't impressed. But people like it. In Friday's live stream, the producer went on to claim that, like with the recent Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, Kojima and the original staff will be credited in the upcoming Metal Gear Solid 3 remake in some form. Quote, "Since we had a lot of questions about this, Mr. Kojima and all original development staff are, of course, credited for their original roles. They were already included in the Master Collection, and they'll be listed in Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater as well. They're a part of these games too, so absolutely they're in. Konami has previously stated that Kojima is not involved in the upcoming Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. The game designer currently has a full schedule with Death Stranding 2, Xbox game OD, a new IP with PlayStation, and a Death Stranding movie all in the works. So Connor, I bring you in to ask you, should Kojima work with Konami again, and should Kojima return to Metal Gear?
It'd be nice to see it, but I'm not exactly pro that. Part of that feeds into Death Stranding. I was slightly disappointed when it was 2, because Kojima has such a unique way of making games.
But it looks sick as fuck.
Sure, but it's what else can he do? You know, it was really interesting to see him go into this new realm with his own game company and to do the game that he wanted to do. I just wanted to see more of that, to see which other places he can go to. And so in that same vein, just to go back to the thing that you had made for years and years and years that there's already a lot of to play, I think is, you're missing out on what else you could do. That said, if you decided to work with Konami again, because I'm assuming they'd have some kind of deal brokered out to where they can work on it, ideally with no, real oversight, no hardline oversight on how the game is made. But that's being hopeful with Konami. I think it's kind of good to let sleeping dogs lie for the most part and move onwards. Especially as it says at the end, he's got so many things already in the work.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Elder Scrolls 6 conversation of even thinking about that right now.
Yeah, if he were to win.
Yeah.
He's doing so much already. I'm kind of mostly with you. It's worth noting, there's a couple of things. First of all, I think Konami and Okamura specifically have been saying all the right things when it comes to the Master Collection, when it comes to Delta Remake, and when addressing fans. There was also a note saying that, hey, we're receiving feedback. We read your positive and your negative comments. Most of it has been kind of neutral, but there has been a percentage that have said that, we are aware of the group that says without Kojima we don't want you type thing. We are aware of that. They've addressed that and they know it's happening. So they're trying to do the best they can by the fans here in this moment, and I think that's great. It's also worth noting the CEO of Konami during the whole Metal Gear Solid 5 fiasco has left the company. So might be a better place to work at now, and I think especially because Konami has clearly changed their plans here and moved away from
not being shitty.
What are those machines that they wanted?
Pachinko.
Machines. Moving away from pachinko machines, reopening development in gaming. We're seeing a reignition of Silent Hill, specifically with Silent Hill 2 and a bunch of spin-offs and things, which I have been kind of met with a mixed bag. Master Collection came out pretty solid, kind of a lazy kind of port in my opinion, and was dealt with a bunch of smaller technical issues, but for the most part, the collection works fine, as is. Colosbra?
I was trying in my mind.
Colosbra says, I can't imagine Kojima coming back now that he has a new studio. That's where I'm at with this.
Yeah.
I could see Kojima giving his blessing. I could say Kojima saying, or becoming sort of a creative advisor of some kind on a new Metal Gear project of some kind. If that were to happen and he were to say, hey, I'm signing off on this, I think this is cool, the direction they're going, I like where they're going, type thing. Regardless of quality of that game that would come out, that would make me as a hardcore Metal Gear Solid fan open to the idea of a Metal Gear game without being made directly by Kojima, being made by somebody else. But if he were to give his blessing, sort of be a creative advisor of some kind, that would make it better. That would make the pill easier to swallow. But of course, without that, I'm not interested in something new from Metal Gear. You can re-release, remaster, collection, remake me to death. And that I think is fine. I don't love it, but it's better than anything else. A Metal Gear Solid 6 or anything Metal Gear Solid related without Kojima at all, without Kojima saying it's cool, I'm not interested at all as a fan. But again, I'm also not interested in a Metal Gear Solid 6 by Hideo Kojima. I'm just not. I think what Kojima's doing with Death Stranding is way more interesting, even though not necessarily as cool. or as good as what he's done with Metal Gear in the past. We will, of course, see the quality of Death Stranding 2 and the lessons learned from the first game in that. But the him returning to Metal Gear feels like a step backwards. It feels like, especially because it's been well documented, Kojima has never wanted to make a Metal Gear sequel, ever. Even reaching all the way back to the MSX days with the original game, he never had plans for a Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake. It never happened. It wasn't until like he found out some American dev studio was given the license to go create it.
Kind of out of spite, he was like,
"Yeah," and then out of spite, he goes, "No, I'm making it," and then he made a better game. Kojima, and then Metal Gear Solid was supposed to be the end of that trilogy, but it became so many people's jumping point, made so much money that he went crazy with MGS2. Again, was supposed to be the last one. Fan backlash put him into the position to where he should make 3. Again, 3 did so well. And then when he tried to pass the reins off to somebody, fan backlash on that, and a bunch of death threats got sent, so he was forced to make MGS4. I think Peace Walker's the only one that he was like, no, I want to make that.
You could especially see that with 3, because it just decides, we're going to do a flashback now.
Or we're going to go back now. Yeah. We're going to make it right with the fans, even though time has aged Metal Gear Solid 2 gracefully, and so now that those first 3 games feel awesome, or have held up awesomely. So now, after MGS5, like, what the fuck do we want? I would be moderately interested in a MGS5 Kojima edition where we get the full Act 3 and the full story of that. But again, I don't want that to take up his time when he's busy doing these other things, I would much rather him give us OD and have a survival horror game from Kojima. I'm much more interested in Fizzant, I believe is the name of the little movie game project that he's doing with Universal Studios and PlayStation. I'm much more interested in that. I'm much more interested in Death Stranding 2. I'm interested in anything from Kojima except Metal Gear. That's just where I'm at in 2024 as a Metal Gear Solid fan and as a fan and follower of Hideo Kojima. What would a Metal Gear Solid 6 even be?
I don't know.
Exactly. Like, it's hard to even imagine what that game could or should be. Now, am I opposed to anything Metal Gear ever again? No, of course. If Kojima says, hey, I'm into this, they're going in a creative direction that I like, I'm signing off, I'm handing the reins over. Of course, it would be, it's a breakup. It's an official breakup of this, but it's a much more appeasable one as opposed to where we are in this situation right now. I think Kojima has softened on the position. I think he's found closure with how he left Metal Gear. I think it would be a great sense of closure. I don't know if he would feel this way, but I would feel it's a great sense of closure if he found it himself to be like, hey, I'm good with this. I'm excited to see what they do type thing. You guys should too. But, he's been posting, every anniversary of every game, he posts art and behind-the-scenes stories and all these things, and he's definitely opened himself back up to the fandom of Metal Gear, which is something we had lost during the Death Stranding 1 days because, it hurt. But, yeah, so, like, we see the conversations happening. I see the path of how that could be there, but again, Metal Gear Solid anything directed by Hideo Kojima, I don't think that should happen.
And honestly, last bit I'll say, it seemed like it kind of did more for Kojima's career with all of that happened and what it led to, as opposed to staying stuck with Konami. It would have been nice to see Silent Hill, and that really could have, shaken things up. Yeah. And by what the demo was showing, it was going to. But obviously, that's not what happened. So all in all, best outcome.
And we're gonna get some of those ideas in OD with Xbox, with Jordan Peele and stuff. So we're going to get some of the ideas that he had for that in this, I'm sure. And, it's going to be even more freeing because it's a new IP, so he can do whatever the hell he wants with it. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just, as a fan, I've moved on. And, as much as I love Metal Gear and I want to play all of those old games on new things, I'm cautiously optimistic for Delta Remake. The best solution I can see is just Kojima waving the flag and saying, "We're cool. It's cool. I'm not coming back, but it's cool. I'm down with whatever they want to do." Yeah. And then of course I always now until the end of time, much like Stan Lee with Marvel, Kojima's name should be signed on every Metal Gear product forever. But I can understand how that could be difficult. Moving on to our third topic of the day, my second penny of the day. Connor, SAG-AFTRA proposes expanding video game contract to cover $15 to $30 million indie projects. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. This is from Jennifer Moss over at Variety. SAG-AFTRA is launching a fourth tier of its proposed indie video game contract that covers game developers' projects in the $15 million to $30 million budget range.
Damn, the beer's coming up.
It's your fault. Hey. It's your fault.
Weak constitution.
Anyways, check out the Dead Cells review, please, at the end of this episode. SAG-AFTRA is launching a fourth tier of its proposed indie video game contract that covers game developers' projects in the $15 million to $30 million budget range. The news comes amid ongoing negotiations between the union and gaming giants, including Activision, EA, WB Games, Disney, and Take-Two, among others. Per the Actors Union, the agreement further demonstrates SAG-AFTRA's goal of expanding coverage for video games while incorporating many of the sought-after provisions essential for the safety and sustainability of performers' careers, and includes robust AI protections that cover voice and movement performances for all four tiers. The updated proposed agreement, titled the Tiered Budget Independent Interactive Media Agreement, now includes projects that range in now includes rates for projects in four ranges: $250,000 to $1 million, $1 million to $5 million, $5 million to $15 million, and $15 million to $30 million. According to SAG-AFTRA, the document, quote, captures project success with secondary payments which can be prepaid at a reduced rate, and, quote, requires informed consent and compensation for the use of digital replicas of a performer. The contract was initially introduced with 3 tiers in February, allowing independent game developers and projects with smaller budgets to access union talent for projects up to $15 million. The union remains in ongoing negotiations for a new contract with the mega gaming studios, with a strike authorization vote being approved by 98% in September. Quote, with this expanded scope of the tiered budget agreement, even more projects will benefit from the skills and experience of union performers, and performers will have more opportunities to work with the benefits and protections of a union contract, including important AI guardrails. SAG-AFTRA Interactive Media Agreement Negotiation Committee Chair, that's a long title, Sarah Elmaya, said, quote, as a union, we are committed to creating contracts and waivers that foster actor-developer collaboration across every budget and scope. Thousands of video games are released every year, and each one deserves to benefit from union talent. Now, of course, this is a great thing. Continues to... What are y'all talking about in chat?
Y'all burp. He wants you to
smell the burp. Got it. Okay.
Nice name, by the way, Cola. Cola is one of those, is the superior artificial flavor of anything.
Moving back on to the story here, Connor. This is great. Of course, this allows indie studios with a sizable chunk of budget, more than some other indie studios to have, to access premier talent that maybe they could not have before. This allows that talent to access projects that maybe they would not have been able to prior to this contract expansion, which is great for the performers, of course, as well, and allows them to be protected in case anything kind of crazy happens via AI or anything like that. This is good for everybody. Let's hope it continues to go down this route. If I remember correctly, the AI guardrails for voice actors not as good as it is for real live action actors. So, of course, still progress to be made, still steps that need to be taken, but this is a good step. We like this step. Let's continue building in this direction.
On the AI stuff, it's emerging technology, so things are subject to change very easily, maybe within this year. But with all the cancellations and the layoffs that go on, it's good to have to draw from a worker base that can't so easily be pushed around which is always the benefit of these unions. They provide that strength that can easily be snuffed out by companies. We covered a story earlier in this show about how Microsoft is dealing with some problems related to unionization, and workers who attempt to do so get blocked and fired for other reasons. And so SAG-AFTRA, being as big of a name as it is, provides a lot more of that security on name alone, much less the actual benefits they provide. It's good that they're making indie developers, gain access to that talent more easily, because some games, even though they might get a sizable amount of money to make their game, they're still indies.
Yeah.
It's not even close to being compared to
It's
being
going to be
a AAA
more
or
in that,
AA
like,
title.
I assume, I don't know for certain, of course, because we don't have hard numbers on that, but I assume this is going to be sort of in that Mike Bithell Games Tron project range. I would assume they're somewhere in that, or
That makes sense.
Maybe they're a little bit lesser than that because they're smaller guys. But guys like probably Supergiant runs into this realm with the what they're doing with Hades and so forth. And then just a bunch of other guys. This just covers more people. It allows people more funding. It allows people more access to premier talent or unionized talent, rather, I should say. And it allows more freedom for the performers to take on projects that maybe they feel passionate about, or open up new opportunities just for them to find new work and so forth. Just continue to get a paycheck. All of the great protections that come with that. Maybe we need to, include some better protections. But a win is a win. Let's take them when we get it, right?
I will.
And of course, I would like to remind everybody in Twitch chat and on YouTube that we record all of our podcasts every Monday afternoon, twitch.tv/2pennygames. So make sure you follow us in the Twitch chat down below. Make sure you comment on the YouTube comments so that we can include an audience 2penny. And make sure you jump into chat and talk to us about the topics that we're talking about live so that we can include your thoughts on what maybe you feel when it comes to the topics at hand. But Connor, moving into our final topic of the day, before we jump into our Dead Cells review, let's move on to the final penny, your final penny of the day. Take it away.
And I pog face. I'm not going to actually do it. This is from Comic Book Resources. Sam Fang, Amazon's Lord of the Rings video game is, quote, not too far away. Amazon Games Vice President Christoph Hartmann has confirmed that the company's upcoming The Lord of the Rings video game is, quote, not too far away. I just said that. The news comes over 1 year after the original announcement of the game. Amazon previously announced in May 2023 that it would be partnering with the video game company Embracer to develop and publish a new massively multiplayer online game in the world of J.R.R. Tolkien's The Lord of the Rings. Details surrounding the game have been quiet since then, but Amazon Games' Christoph Hartmann revealed to Variety some details about when fans can expect to learn more about the game and an upcoming entry in the Tomb Raider video game franchise. Quote, it's not going to be tomorrow, but it's not too far away, Hartmann said. We're getting into a much more regular cadence of shipping games. That's all I'm allowed to tell you right now, end quote. Hartmann stressed that the reason Amazon Games hasn't revealed much about the games is because of the hard work going on behind the scenes. Quote, it's all about quality. You don't want to just be rushed out. That doesn't work. It has to be AAA quality because the bar is so high, end quote. Amazon Games 2023 press release announcing the upcoming game revealed the company's commitment to producing a high-quality game for fans. Quote, we're committed to bringing players high-quality games, whether through original IPs or long-beloved ones like The Lord of the Rings, Hartmann said. Bringing players a fresh take on The Lord of the Rings has long been an aspiration for our team. Video games aren't the only area where Amazon brings Middle-earth to life, with Amazon Studios producing The Rings of Power for Prime Video. Lee Guinchard, CEO of Free Mode by Embracer, echoed Hartmann's statements and added, quote, the world of Middle-earth continues to provide an endlessly fertile ground for creators, and Amazon Games has a passion for building immersive, compelling worlds and publishing games for a global audience. We're taking every care to deliver an MMO which will do justice to the expansive Middle-earth universe and delight players around the world. So, one of the things that was said, yeah. Embracer wanted to. What was the exact quote?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you weren't
I'm sorry.
It?
Just we stopped talking about Tomb Raider and just I'm sorry. I lost it there on such a boring IP that is Lord of the Rings and just how little quality there is within
That's
that.
not why he's doing that. That's not why he's getting tired. He's getting tired because Embracer, the company that Amazon is partnering with, said they wanted to exploit the Lord of the Rings IP.
Indeed.
And so know what they're doing here.
I want to say for the clarity, no, I fell asleep because your fucking precious Lord of the Rings is boring as shit.
Yeah, you know what gives you watch you're watching Acolyte, Star Wars Acolyte. Keep on going doing that, loser. Lord of the Rings has been in a dry spell recently with its everything. It had to go into the Hobbit films.
Let me know when it got into wet spell. I'm sorry. I'm done. Last one.
They made the Hobbit films. Not that great. They made the Shadow of the Middle Earth games, the Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War.
First one was great.
Both of them were great.
Second one was alright.
It was great. They were great games. But since then, they made Gollum, which was not good. Rings of Power, which, even though you have a good base to work with when it comes to Lord of the Rings, they failed miserably. Then you had Mines of Moria, which wasn't bad, but it didn't really make any waves because it's,
got that Lord of the Rings sim game coming out.
That's the Shire.
Big moves.
Yeah. And that's kind of indicative of what they've done with Lord of the Rings, which is not much. They just kind of, as they said, milk it. They keep on doing things with it. Nothing really particularly interesting. And so when they go into this whole diatribe about what they're doing with this new MMO game, which is, once again, another path you can easily monetize your game to continue to bring in bucks, I just cannot feel excited for it. Lord of the Rings fan, that's this. I like Lord of the Rings. I don't care. It's going to come out, and it's probably going to be uninteresting.
But does a Lord of the Rings MMO, does that not, like on paper at least, of course, when we see it and, it gets actually presented to us in any meaningful way, then we'll be able to render judgment. But does that not sound on paper like something that like would be the right move? Like that's a genre of game that would probably fit Lord of the Rings very, very well and give you, a Lord of the Rings fan, a reason to continuously come back to this universe in a way that you would actually really enjoy.
Well, to the last point, I kind of realized that wouldn't happen when I have a game that apparently is one of the best stories in the franchise in the form of Final Fantasy XIV and fun gameplay, and it still wasn't enough to make me pay a monthly fee to play your MMO, which this one might be doing the same thing. Either way, if that didn't get me into MMOs as a genre, this might not either. But to your point, whether they should do an MMO Lord of the Rings game, they already have. Middle Earth Online, I think is what it's called, and it actually was received well. Apparently, it was a good MMO. And guess what happened to it? It went by the wayside. And do I think these guys who haven't really made a substantial game, Amazon, I should say, hasn't made a substantial game, and Embracer has been on a bad spell?
Amazon made something recently that was good.
What did they?
Not the Avatar game. That was a Ubisoft game, right? Yeah, they made something recently that was decent. Amazon Games.
Maybe I would eat my words on that, but there just hasn't been much to sink your teeth into as far as Lord of the Rings is concerned. And I don't think that even with the points you made is going to result in anything that's worthwhile going into.
Throne and Liberty, New World, at Turnham, Lost Ark, Blue Protocol, and then of course they're working on the new Tomb Raider with Crystal Dynamics.
Lost Ark
Lord
was
of the Rings with the Embracer Group.
Lost Ark was the most talked about game on that list, wasn't it?
See, I heard more about New World, which was their MMO.
Oh no, New World.
Yeah,
that's the MMO.
I've heard about Lost Ark though. I've heard good things about that one as well.
But see, they haven't really they don't really do particularly interesting things. Like they do nothing. For as big as a company as Embracer is, they have no very little footprint in the kind of games they make.
I guess, but when you add that with the popularity of an IP called Lord of the Rings, okay, there's going to be more funding, there's going to be more talent drawn because more people are interested in working in Lord of the Rings than they are some random new IP, So it would be a more attractive venture than that.
It would be more attractive, but Rings of Power had a lot of hype going into it.
Sure.
And it came out and it wasn't that great. And so people didn't really talk about it.
Yeah.
And Embracer and Amazon, I just haven't proved themselves enough to say, well, because they're making the Lord of the Rings game, it's going to be fun and I'm looking forward to it.
Embracer, of course, valid to draw criticism for.
Amazon
maybe I just want to be more positive in this and hope. I mean, Amazon Games is the one making it.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll turn out with a little bit more shebang than that. But also, the word on Crystal Dynamics is Tomb Raider. Not soon, but not far.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. I'm excited to see what Crystal Dynamics does with Tomb Raider and how they evolve the franchise and what they do with it going forward.
Oh my.
So yeah. I'm excited to hear about Tomb Raider when it's time to hear about Tomb Raider. I can wait though. That's fine. I'm fine with waiting.
Are you fine with waiting for Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, because again, Lord of the Rings, and I want to shout out Cola in the chat, who is a big fat fucking nerd, shouting out how much he likes Lord of the Rings and watching them in theaters in 2024. Fucking nerd.
I watched them in theaters in like 2022.
That's great. I watched them a couple months ago. You know what? Best 10-hour nap of my fucking life. You fucking losers liking things like Lord of the Rings. Ooh, let my hairy feet carry the ring of power and this is the sword of the ghost of Avalon and he wants to let you know that it's been haunted for 12 generations. And does that matter to the plot? No, but we're going to talk about it for 15 fucking minutes.
It definitely matters to the plot, and this guy is a Star Wars shill loser.
Yeah,
bitch.
but Star Wars gets to the meat. They get to the action. They let you know what's happening, why it's happening, and why you should care right away. Now, does that mean every Star Wars project is good? No. There's more good Star Wars projects than Lord of the Rings projects, though.
Sure.
And I think that speaks for itself.
Because they're so easily shilling those games out.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it.
Which on its own merits has done better than any Star Wars product.
That's not true.
Yes, it is.
Not true.
Cola. This guy's an ignoramus. It's the original ones are not a snooze fest. Everything
Star
else,
Wars is a snooze fest?
Most everything else
How is
yes.
Star
Most
Wars a snooze fest?
Most everything else in Star Wars is. Even, all of the new movies, boring,
Prequels
lame.
7, 8, 9. Seven's a great movie. 7's a great, fun movie. Did it lead to some disappointing sequels? Absolutely.
7's
But
forgettable.
Also, Star Wars has done better in video games. It's done better in movies. It's done better.
It has not done better in
It's done better in movies.
No.
It's got more.
No matter-
It's got more successful movies than Lord of the Rings has.
No, see, the thing is, the Lord of the Rings films are so good, they trump anything that Star Wars has ever done.
But there's also Lord of the Rings movies that are so bad that they equate to the
But
bad
only
levels
one
of-
is better than everything Star Wars has done. Pick one. It's better than everything Star Wars has done.
better in video games. Better.
I'll concede that. Yes.
Better in video games. Better in music. Better in what else? Comic books.
Better in music.
Better in television.
Better in comic books? Sure. Wow. Good job.
Better in... Fuck it.
Television,
I'll say it. I'll say it. The Tolkien books are fucking boring as shit. I think even hardcore Lord of the Rings fans can admit that that's kind of true. And so Star Wars did better in books as well. Novels.
I'll give that one as well. The other one, though, music. It has
Ladies
more
and gentlemen, that is going to be
soundtracks,
it for
but as a
the
package, it is better in Lord of the Rings.
Come on.
It is. As
Come
a package,
on.
it is. As a
Come
package, it
on.
is. As a package, it is. Yes.
We got fucking what's his name? The GOAT. I can't remember his fucking name right now because I'm
John Williams?
John Williams. We got John Williams on the fucking score. It's the fucking GOAT. And he's hitting with some of his best fucking work for 9 fucking films. Feel how you want to feel about episodes 1 through 3 and 7 through 9. Feel how you want to feel about them.
Always killed
the
it each
music. The music, excellent every fucking time.
He's killed it. All right. I'll concede that point. But overall, still, Lord of the Rings.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and listening to the Two Penny Gamescast. Remember, you can catch this podcast every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Time, youtube.com/@2pennygames, and mainstream podcast services of your choice. Watch us record all of our podcasts live by following us on twitch.tv/2pennygames. Because we record our podcast live every Monday afternoon, make sure to drop a follow on all of our socials and our TikTok channel down in the description below. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment down below to let us know how you felt about this week's episode, and to put in your own 2 pennies and have some community topics brought into next week's episode. Until next time, have a great time. And Connor, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.
What's poppin', players? Welcome back to the 2 Penny Game Club, your monthly video game book club in which the 3 of us play a game in the background, and we come to you at the beginning of each month to review and then rank it amongst the other games we've played in the game club. I am your host, Tavin Bothel, here with my good friends and co-host. Say hello to the people, Connor, Elliott.
It's good to be back after our last show that we just did, called the 2 Penny Gamescast.
Oh, okay, got you. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, you would understand why I was so confused if you were watching live, twitch.tv/2pennygames every Monday afternoon, in which we record all of our podcasts, but we haven't recorded this week's Gamescast. A little behind-the-scenes action here. We haven't recorded this week's Gamescast because we still have to record with our good buddy and fellow co-host. Say hello to the people, Phil Shoemaker.
Hello.
Phil! Very excited to have you here. Connor, I'm going to start with you, and I'm going to start with that right there. You know what I'm saying? Because you, my friend, have started a tradition. We quietly kind of did it last month, kind of quietly, cheers to you as well, Philip.
Phil.
Excellent.
Oh,
Excellent.
boy.
Excellent. Kind of quietly did it last month, maybe even the month before, but you started this idea. We're a couple of guys, a couple of buddies, a couple of friends, a couple of gamers.
That's what I thought he was going to say.
Did you say gays?
It sounded like you were saying at the beginning. A couple of gays?
I was gonna go gamers and then just cut myself off on the wrong syllable there. A couple of gamers playing some video games, having a good time. So you were like, Tavin, you should be popping over some brewskis and some drinky drinks so that we can, chill and have a good time and have a little more casual thing, which is weird because we don't really treat this show any more or less casual than our normal reviews. But it's a fun time. It's a fun time. So here we are. Your friends brought over a case of Yingling Ambers, so we're drinking some Yinglings. Great time.
I'm jealous.
Phil,
very good beer.
what are you drinking?
Me?
Indeed, yes.
This is a TX whiskey with Dr. Pepper cream soda.
I like it.
Hey,
I like it. Sounds good.
you know what would be even better
Been
than
a while
that?
since I've had a Yingling. That tasted different than I thought it was going to.
A nice whiskey with Mexican Coke.
Sure.
I have Coke Zero.
It's not.
Same thing.
No, it's
Same
not.
thing.
No, it's
Exact
not.
same thing. There you
No,
go.
it's not.
Ladies and gentlemen, this month we are reviewing for your pleasure Dead Cells. Of course,
They're dead.
Of course, click the link in the description down below for the playlist for the full show, so you can see other games we reviewed and ranked. Those do include games such as Metal Gear Solid, like we did last month, Fable 1, Final Fantasy 7, Chrono Trigger, God of War Ragnarok, Last of Us 1. The list goes on and on. Exactly goes on and on 24 times. This is episode 25. Apparently, we learned that.
Wait.
But-
So that means that. Oh wait, that means we hit the 2-year anniversary.
Yes and no, because there were a couple of episodes that we did them early, so I don't know what the actual timing is. But there were also episodes that we did late because they took so long to play.
Yeah. Okay.
So tricky. Timing is tricky, but it is what it is. Anyways, gentlemen, Dead Cells was released on August 7th, 2018 for Windows, Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch. It currently has a Metacritic of 89, and in the first 3 years of it being on the market, it sold 5 million copies. But, excuse me, Lord alive, that brewski, Connor, is your fault.
It was. I'll take it.
But 2 years,
Pussy.
if you add 2 more years, it doubles its sales to 10 million copies as of 2023. I don't know why. Couldn't tell you why. But that's what happened. My dog is
He's watching a fly.
He's watching a fly?
Yeah.
All right. That's fine. There we go. If
I
my
don't know
dog
why
gets
she
crazy,
swallowed a fly.
that's what it is. And so, gentlemen, we've all played Dead Cells. We've played an extensive amount of Dead Cells. We've all completed a run, at least, and then some more probably after that, just kind of playing around, experimenting a little bit more. We all played on different platforms. I played on the Nintendo Switch. Connor.
PC.
Phil.
PlayStation 5.
PlayStation 5. Very
Our
good.
experiences were so different.
You know what? Actually, they might have been a little bit different than you might expect. Because, ladies and gentlemen, Dead Cells is what I would call a good game. It's a good game. It might even be a really good game. But it's not a great game, actually. When putting an objective lens on it and really breaking it down and playing it over the last month, I couldn't help but feel that Dead Cells, in my memory, was a greater game than what I experienced in reality. Now, again, don't get me wrong. This is a good game. I like it, and I fully recommend playing it. However, let me start with the positive. Dead Cells, of course, is a 2D Metroidvania game, or Metroidvania / roguelike game, in which you're playing as sort of like this beheaded creature guy, and you're running around killing things, fighting bosses, and exploring dungeons. And it made a big splash in 2018. I remember for being a really good roguelike / Metroidvania crossover, and it was praised for that. And I remember it being praised, and I remember it being back in 2018, very challenging to play. Didn't feel that so much this time around. Did not feel like the game was super challenging, which is strange that I felt that way. Its combat loop is fun. Its general gameplay loop is fun and engaging, and I think it's good. But I also think it's quite basic. It kind of feels like you just turn it into just mash one or two buttons and then roll every once in a while. Other than that, I don't feel like I'm memorizing attack patterns. I don't feel like I'm learning enemy behavior. I kind of just feel like, oh, there's an attack coming. Let me roll to get out of the way. I think the dodge window is too wide, so it makes it really easy to dodge literally everything. And the weapons can quickly become overpowered depending on how you're playing out your different percentages in your run and different upgrades in your run and so forth. I think where the game shines the most is its wide variety of weapons and its wide variety of enemies. I think that's where the game shines the most. It's always fun to come across something new. It's always fun to experiment with a new weapon. It's always fun to play out a new play style. But I don't feel like the game is rewarding enough when you do experiment with your play style to justify running away from a play style you've already established that you like. For example, my playthrough consisted mostly of red weapons, which are normally like swords and melee weapons, whether they're heavy, light, this, that, and the third. Purple are usually ranged weapons like bows and arrows and guns and so forth, or a deck of playing cards. And then green is usually shields of some kind or different experiments of that. I spent the majority of my playthrough just using red weapons and the different variety of melee weapons that they have. And I just felt like that was so overpowering that even though it was fun to play with the other weapons and it was rewarding and I would be like, oh, this is actually a very good play style and feels just as good as the red stuff, I just kept finding myself gravitating to the red stuff that I recognized.
It's red is like the severity, purple is the tactical, and then green is like survival or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, just the brutality.
Brutality is the red one.
Brutality, that's what it is.
I feel like it's like fun to explore the levels, but like not enough to like care about seeing everything within the level. And the chase to unlocking new upgrades and weapons is a little too long. I don't think they're dishing out rewards fast enough for me to look. It doesn't feel like I'm chasing that thing over the horizon. It feels like, God damn, that thing is so far away. All right, I'll just keep throwing points at it until I get it, I guess. Like, type thing. Like, it feels like a chore to unlock some of these different weapons and upgrades and so forth. And at a certain point, you get some of your base upgrades, mainly like the number of health flasks you feel like you need. You get that really quickly, and then you don't feel like upgrading any further past what you need. I got 2 or 3 health flasks, and I was like, that's enough. I'm good. I don't need to do any more. I never unlocked a good starting shield at the beginning because, again, I never felt the need to jump to shields as opposed to getting my favorite melee weapons. And again, the wide variety of weapons in this game are really cool. It's really creative. It's really fun every time I picked up a new weapon. But I gotta pick up a new weapon first. And when they give me a weapon I know and I'm familiar with and I know how to operate, I found myself just continuously gravitating to the thing I already knew. I don't know why. There's something about this game in its design to where experimenting with play style isn't rewarding enough or isn't interesting enough to make me want to do it. Even though that's the best part of the game is when you do experiment and you do play around with different weapons and so forth. I found the bosses, back in 2018, were very difficult and very challenging. I remember never beating this game or never finishing a run in this game. But this time, the hardest part is the beginning levels to me. Once you get deep into it, you're now too strong, and I never lost to a boss fight. Not once did I lose to a boss fight. I would only die within the levels. So not really a critique, just something that I experienced this time around. I wish they were harder. I wish the boss fights were bigger checkpoints, were bigger gates of progression that I felt like I was overcoming them better. Other than that, I think the art style is fine. This weird 2.5 thing that they got going on, I don't think is particularly attractive. But it's definitely executed on at a high level. And I think the little like tongue-in-cheek dark humor of the game is enjoyable as well. But I also found myself, as soon as I finished my big run of the game for the first time, I didn't feel the need to keep going. There is more. There is a carrot at the end of the stick to keep playing and keep doing it. Didn't feel that need outside of like a game that we've also played, Hades, where you do feel the need to keep going. You do want to keep uncovering new lines of dialogue, and there is a narrative hook to that works way better here than it does here. At least there's not a real super crazy narrative to speak of, and what is there isn't interesting enough to pursue it going forward. Connor, am I crazy?
No. I think certain elements that you touched on are not as to be criticized as you did. But this is a game where if I was explaining the concept of a roguelike, and I was asked, what roguelike should I play? This will be a game I'd go to. Not necessarily because it's the best roguelike light.
This one is a
roguelike.
Yes. No, this one's a roguelite.
Is it?
Yes, because roguelites are, I believe, I have this right, Phil? Roguelites are games where you make progress from run to run. You keep upgrades of some kind. Where roguelikes, you keep nothing.
Oh, really?
I believe that is the distinction. I might have those backwards, but I believe
I think you have it backwards.
Do I have it backwards? I might have it backwards.
So roguelike would be...
it might be a roguelike then. I don't know. So Phil, do the Google while he reviews.
Yeah, I'll say roguelike, because that seems like it's what it is in my mind. But it's very cookie cutter. And I find that genre of games very rarely miss. And this is an example of that. It's fun from beginning to end. But as you said, I didn't feel the need to jump back into another run afterwards. And I played it just before coming on the show. I had not played it in about 2 weeks, maybe a little over 2 weeks. And I jumped in, and I just wasn't feeling the love, as I did when I first played the game before I beat it. Because, with these roguelikes, they're usually easy to jump into and have a pretty big blast with in a short amount of time. But this one, I wasn't getting some weapons that I particularly enjoyed, and they were the first time I used them, such as the crowbar, which is a reference to Half-Life. I found it to be, not really interesting to fight with. Its special ability of, doing extra damage to beasts or allowing you to do criticals after doing damage to beasts. Certainly criticals after breaking doors, which the weapons do have these fun elements where they have some sort of condition, like you'll do critical hits if you're facing the enemy. You'll, the third hit...
randomly generated, what do they call them?
Attributes?
Attributes? Like randomly generated attributes.
Yeah, and they're fun ones, and they can really make a weapon during one of your runs. But if you find one that you're not really feeling all that well, it's not like Hades where it's a small, cultivated group of weapons. You'll just kind of, expect that run to be kind of, not your favorite, one you want to get through as quick as possible because you don't like the weapon. And I feel like sometimes its runs will kind of acknowledge, oh, you want to stay on this weapon and not really give you any other options, which I understand why they did that, so you're not constantly switching things out. You just have your dedicated play set. But I kind of wished it would go beyond having, just different level upgraded frying pans for me to use.
I have an answer to Tavin's question for the roguelike versus roguelite. So me and Connor are actually incorrect. Tavin, you had it correct.
Okay.
It says this is just the little blurb talking about roguelites. Roguelite games usually feature permadeath and procedurally generated worlds, but while in traditional roguelike games, death meant starting over. Roguelites are where it serves a certain purpose. If you die, you get to keep some abilities or resources, meaning that during the next playthroughs, you can get farther and farther, eventually reaching the end goal.
That's also interesting.
Death puts a stop to your run, and roguelites, it helps you achieve more.
Okay, I see.
But that's also interesting that they added randomly generated for the roguelite.
Yeah.
I guess roguelikes, they're going to keep the level the same so that you can learn it and feel like it's based off more of play skill versus random.
Roguelikes are also procedurally generated.
Oh, never mind.
They were saying that roguelike games usually feature permadeath and procedurally generated worlds, just like roguelikes.
Oh, okay.
So basically what you're saying...
While traditional roguelike games, death meant starting over.
So basically what you're saying is there's so little of a difference between the two that there's not really a reason to distinguish
It's a pretty
them.
big difference. It's a pretty big difference.
I think that's kind of
it's a pretty big difference.
Between like those are different games.
A roguelike, you're literally just starting from ground zero every time you die.
Listen, I think that's more of a valid difference than a Souls-like and a Souls-light.
Soulsborne.
Yeah,
or
I mean
Soulsborne, whatever they're called.
Those just two things seem to have the consistent problem of Like, well, it's like made up by people who say, well, actually.
No,
and-
100%.
yeah,
100%.
shut up.
I would never
Absolutely
stop
agree,
somebody
yeah.
mid-sentence,
Yeah.
even though I did stop you mid-sentence.
But we didn't know.
It's for a reason, like, because we're talking on the internet that I stopped you. But, like, in real life, I wouldn't fucking stop you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, continue.
That type of game, either way, you can jump into it and get the gist of it.
Yeah.
My original point still pretty much stands. The world itself is pretty bland. You know, these roguelike games like Metroidvania, roguelike, lights, like The Messenger, which I'm a very big fan of. It, in combination with its writing, the world it drops you in is inherently interesting. And as you said before, it gives you something to kind of chew on as you're going through these levels, which, based on the kind of game it is, you're doing just the same thing over and over and over again in a fun way. But this one it was kind of, didn't have a strong identity for the kind of game that it was, and I feel like that makes, comparative to other roguelike lights, very, inferior. But the game is good. You know, the wide breadth of playstyles really saves it from being just kind of a generic feeling game, but the other elements, they don't really do enough to elevate Dead Cells in the genre that it exists in.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you. But Phil, how do you feel about Dead Cells?
Real quick, I didn't realize the Messenger was a roguelite.
It's not. It's
Metroidvania.
a Metroidvania, and that's also a spoiler for the
Oh.
game. It's advertised as a Ninja Gaiden-esque game. So thanks for spoiling all of that. But yeah, the Messenger is a Metroidvania. You need to play more Metroidvanias so that you can have better examples.
Sounds so, because I guess I like Metroidvanias more than regular platformers.
Yeah,
guess they're-
you
well,
would
once again-
you would like Metroidvania because Metroidvanias also usually have weapons in them, and you're so
that's
combat
true.
focused that
Yes.
you would just enjoy them more.
That's another thing, by the way.
You
Sorry
should,
to
you should
take
play Metroid Dread, dude.
Yeah, I should. Another side point before you go into yours. That just seems like another instance of like Metroidvanias, platformers. Are they pretty much the same thing?
No,
How so?
there's a
Not
wide
at all.
difference. There's a wide. You're just equivalating or making equivalent because they're both traditionally 2D, and that's not what it is at all. Metroidvanias can, but don't always have platforming challenges in them. Whereas a platformer is specifically based around creating platforming challenges.
I see.
A Metroidvania is more based around exploration. Firstly, exploration and combat. Usually has combat. Doesn't always have combat, but usually has combat.
And that's not the same thing as a...
And also will have boss fights.
Yeah, never mind.
like-
That's not the same thing as a roguelike.
And plenty of
slash light.
backtracking and like re-exploring areas that you couldn't get to before.
Yeah, I see now.
Yeah. Both of these games have elements that they share, speaking specifically in the 2D space, but there's enough difference between them to fully justify the difference of genre here.
Yeah.
Phil, where you at?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time with Dead Cells. Mostly, I was so I did complete my run, and I did a couple of them actually. But after I beat the main boss twice, I was more focused on like trying to figure out exactly what weapons were my favorite, and like what, because there's so many different weapon types in this game. Like you already kind of talked about it a little bit, Tavin.
Yeah.
And just the sheer amount of references to other IP if you have all the different expansions, which I did because I downloaded this game and started playing it for the second time back when the Castlevania DLC came out. I think that was 2 years ago or last year.
Last year.
I think it was 2 years
Excuse
ago.
me, because we did it for or you recruited it for fantasy.
Oh shit, yeah, it was last year. Okay. But just to name some stuff, I did pull up a little like thing of them talking about. There's the pure nail from Hollow Knight. It's like one of the swords you can
Is
get.
that where that's from?
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, okay.
There's
like
the
it.
blasphemy. Go ahead.
What's that?
What?
The pure nail.
I was
Didn't
gonna
care
say-
for it. Continue.
Yeah, the pure nail. There's the blasphemous face flask and penitent outfit you can get from the blasphemous series. There's
what
the
that-
hard light gun and sword from the hyper light drifter.
Yeah,
That one's cool.
Those are cool.
There's the Poyo power and luchador outfit from Guacamelee.
Ah, that's where that's from.
Oh, that's
Okay.
cool.
There is the Bone and Little Bone outfit from Skull the Hero Slayer.
Is everything reference?
A lot of them are. A lot of
More
them.
than I thought.
Some of them
There's
are
only-
basic things like balance blade, bleed blade,
Yeah.
blood blade. Excuse me. Yeah, those are, as far as I know, not references.
There's
to
the
anything.
machete and pistol and explorer's outfit from Curse of the Dead Gods.
Interesting.
I
not
also
familiar.
got what this isn't on the list here, but of course there are weapons from the the Castlevania series. There's Simon's Whip. You can get that. That's pretty fucking cool. There's the cross thing that you can like throw and
The little boomerang
and it'll come
cross,
back to
yeah.
you. The boomerang. Yeah. There is the holy water you can throw and like make a pillar of fire go on people. And yeah, it's just super cool. And I had a blast. Oh, there's also from Shovel Knight. There's the King Knight Scepter, which I liked a lot. It basically you can hit somebody with it, and then you do a little twirl and land on one of your enemies, and it does extra damage. It's super cool. I use that one a ton. I use that one. I use the light sword and pistol from Hyper Light Drifter.
That one was cool.
And the pure nail. Those are like the three that I use the most.
The scepter I just used, like before I came on here.
It's super cool, right?
It's cool, yeah. I combined it because that's one of the things that the game does good is you have also those mutations that you know
kind of play into it. I found myself using the same 2 or 3. Again, like I just didn't feel the need to experiment with those.
Yeah, and also there was the ones you paid the visit to the doctor. I can't remember what those upgrades are called. The permanent ones. Well, they go through the entire playthrough. What the fuck are they called?
You talking that first upgrade guy?
Yeah, he doesn't always appear. He's occasional.
Oh,
is
yeah,
he?
he's talking about something slightly different.
Yeah.
Tavin. It's not usually in the first. Not usually in the first stop. It's usually like in one of the secondary or like one of the first bosses.
It's
They'll
in the
show up.
It's in the beginning area.
Oh, he's
When
talking
you-
about that thing before you grab your weapon, you go down.
Yeah.
Oh,
doctor-
Okay, I know
what are they called
exactly what you're
again?
talking about now. I thought when you said doctor, it threw me off. I thought you were talking about like the blacksmith
Can
guy.
you just buy
No.
mutations from that guy? Am I wrong?
No.
No, you got like a special upgrade for the rest of that game.
Okay.
It would lock you out of some other boss rewards or some other thing. I
know
don't
it would
know.
be, but that was only valid for the run. That wasn't a permanent upgrade.
No, I messed up with the permanent. thing.
Okay,
it was,
okay,
yeah,
okay,
it was
gotcha,
just for the run.
I also just want to mention I did some exploring into the accessibility features, which is something that we haven't really brought up a lot on these reviews.
A lot of our games are old.
Yeah. But I thought it was really cool the level of like things you can change in the accessibility features. Like you can make it to where you basically one hit everything and nothing can hurt you. Just if you want to explore and learn everything. I did switch to that just because I wanted to see how many weapons I could like find, how many different stuff I could things I could find. And just because I wanted to like clear everything out and see exactly how big everything was. A lot of these levels are fucking big.
They're big.
Like it's insane how many layers and different levels there are to each level. And like we said earlier, they're procedurally generated.
Yeah.
So everything's going to be slightly different every time you go through.
But I also like that you are rewarded for that via the like optional rewards, either by getting through a level really fast or getting through a level killing a lot of enemies. Usually you can't. At least I never did do both at the same time. I never did that. And that's rewarded by either like obviously if you explore a lot, you're going to kill more weapons.
It's killing a lot of enemies without getting hit.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was just killing a lot of enemies. Oh, okay. Man, I'm really good at this game. Because
you got to get that tally. That I think it's like next to like a little skull. There's a little tally that goes up every time you kill an enemy without getting hurt.
I actually don't know where in the UI this is.
Down in the corner,
right?
Okay. But yeah, obviously, like you're gonna kill a lot of enemies by exploring a lot, or you just rush to the next level as fast as you can, and it's pretty. You figure out kind of the vibe to kind of get there as fast as you can. Yeah.
Yeah, I really had a really good time with this game. Like Tavin said, it's not the best game ever. I found that I kind of wish that you know how in Hades, because like it's really hard to compare things to Hades because it's such a masterclass in these types of games.
Hades is clearly the best of them.
Mm-hmm.
But like I wish that after you beat one of the bosses, it was slightly different the next time. You know, specifically that first boss, it's literally the same fight every single time.
Yeah.
Not very. I think the most varied one was the final boss at the end, where he kind of changes the platforms on you, and he like has that really long stick.
For the sake of the podcast, stop.
I killed it. I got it.
But yeah, I thought it was really cool. Like I said, that's really my only issue with it, and like I said, it's also unfair to compare that to Hades, which came out a year afterward. But just it ruined all other roguelites for me.
Yeah, and then to get a little bit more nitpicky, I think the combat of this game is good. It's not great. It does. I kind of spoke on it already, where it does kind of like you kind of just get into a zen state, which I do appreciate. I like a good zen state game, where you're just like kind of throwing out the same attack again and again. I rarely feel myself using my secondary weapon outside of like a freeze blast. I'll use a freeze blast a lot, but if I pick up usually a sword and a bow and arrow, I almost never use the bow and arrow. I find ranged weapons in this game kind of useless because the rooms that you enter are too small to justify needing a ranged weapon. Like, you can close the distance and move around too quickly to where, like, why would I ever take the time to shoot arrows? And also, shooting arrows usually takes longer than just running up and slicing them up. So I just run up and slice them up.
Even when I got a extremely good bow, I quickly was like, I'd rather use something else.
I would rather use my starter weapon because it's probably better and faster, and it's just more engaging to begin with, you know. On top of that, there's a lot of things happening on screen at once. There's a lot of little giblets and doodads and rewards and you know, you're picking up cells and you're picking up money and you're picking up jewels and you're picking up power-ups and all of these things. And there's just too much on screen at one time to where, like, if you're really booking it, really moving fast, you can kind of lose track of the action and what's actually happening moment to moment. And it's not like the game punishes you for losing track of the action. It's just kind of, again, you enter the zen state and just start going, which, again, not really a bad thing, but it does kind of, it takes away from the detail in the combat system. I don't feel like the combat system is very detailed. And I very often feel like there are times where I just don't know what's happening on screen. This did lead occasionally to me dying and not learning why I died. I didn't learn anything from it.
I was just going to say that's really where I ended up dying the most, is where, like, there was just so much going on screen where I couldn't keep track. Like, I think I was fighting a bunch of normal enemies, and then also ran into one of those, like, weird mutated enemies at the same time.
Yeah.
That, like, does a bunch of shit on screen. Like, it'll do like a screen wipe attack that you have to, like, roll through or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just a lot going on.
Yeah, it doesn't look any different from a, like, shield that an enemy may have, like an energy shield that an enemy may have, or this, that, and the third. There's a lot of effects, whether it's bleed, fire, poison, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on long. It just turns into, I'm going to steal a turn of phrase from the YouTube channel Girlfriend Reviews, who used this.
I knew it.
Who used this in their review. I'm going to steal it. I don't like stealing things from other people, but I'll steal this one. It just turns into diarrhea Christmas lights, where it's just, there's so much happening, so many colors, so many sounds and doodads, to where it's just like, I don't know what's happening on screen. Most of the time when I died, I didn't know why I died. And, you know, if I ever got hit, it didn't read or register that I did get hit. And so, you know, there were many combat encounters where I don't know if I did well or not, but I got to the other side of it, and, you know.
That Girlfriend review that you're talking about, do you know what they played on?
So I don't think it was for the Dead Cells review specifically. I think that term originated from the Nier Automata review.
I think it came from the Dead Cells review.
Was it? I thought it was Nier Automata.
Yeah, because I was watching at the beginning of that. I saw the first upload of that channel happen because it went super viral and stuff. So yeah.
Well, my point is I guess PC is the superior way to play it, because I never had that problem.
No, that's not why.
Yeah, but I never had that problem.
You just didn't have this problem. Yeah.
I have more instances of, like, Elden Ring or a Souls game causing me to die and me going, how did I get hit there? Than this game ever had any kind of verbal or visual stuff to prevent me from seeing what's going on.
That definitely happened. I mean, that happens in every game, right? But I feel it so much more in this one than I do any other video game in the genre, or of just games that are punishing, you know? And then to add that to your comment about PC, I played it on Switch. This game does not run the best on Switch. I'm not going to say it runs bad, but there are definitely moments where the loading screens take forever, which takes you out of the moment and the momentum of a run. and make it to where I don't, any reason you can give me to pick up my phone, I'm going to pick up my phone because I'm of this generation. But
Degenerate.
on top of that, if ever there becomes a lot of things happening on screen, the game chugs. And sometimes like it doesn't like slow down frames, it skips frames. So like a frame will get paused and then like I'll lose 2 or 3 frames and then it'll jump ahead to catch up. And so sometimes I get hit and there's legitimately no way for me to know how I got hit because the game broke,
Damn.
I believe there was also a number of glitches and clipping that I came across. Nothing too major though. There's never a moment that sticks out in my mind. I mostly just remember screen chugging and long loading screens. So the game does. I'll just put it out there. The game does not run superbly on Switch. Is that the game's fault? I don't think so because the game didn't launch on Switch, launch exclusively to Switch rather. I played it originally on Switch. I played it on Switch this time around, and this time around I definitely felt where the Switch was holding the game back.
You experienced anything like that, Phil?
Slowdown? No, not really on PS5.
Either me.
The only issue I really ran into, I think I talked about it on Piggy Bank, where I was trying to do the Castlevania DLC, and I got stuck on a loading screen for like 15 minutes.
Yeah. So, but again, for the most part, the game runs fine or even good, And it plays well. I don't think it's a very detailed combat system, and I don't think the combat system has long legs to it, but it plays well. I would like to compliment the boss design because I'm sure it's good, but I just breezed through every fight every single time that I never really learned the characteristics of each individual fight. I know the first fight very well, and I know the last fight pretty well. But I know there's fights I never saw because I never went down those paths. And I never made it to the end of levels like the bank. I never made it to the end of the bank because the bank is hard as fuck. And then I know the second boss is usually like the guy in the clock tower he's got little like ninja stars. Is it a woman?
It is.
Oh yeah,
cool.
Come on, man.
Was it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because every time I played it, I fucking demolished that fight. So I didn't really learn anything from those fights, So yeah, I wish it was challenging. Of course, you can make the game harder. Increasing damage and decreasing the amount of damage given isn't enough for me.
The problem is that the bosses themselves, I don't think you can really do much in that regard to make it better because they are just pretty generic bosses. They aren't really I had more problems sometimes with elite enemies than I did with bosses.
And they telegraph their moves heavy. Yeah.
I only died once to one boss. It was the final boss. Other than that, I just didn't have
I died 2 bosses in the boss rush mode, which was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. There's a lot of like really little fun bonus things that you can explore and find out about. Like there's daily challenges that are cool that you run through levels and do cool daily challenges and so forth. There's a cool boss rush mode. There's more on top of that, but those are the ones I can think of on top. Yeah, again, the overall package is quite good, really well put together. I just don't think this game is as impactful as other ones we've played on the show.
I would agree.
That means I think it's time to rank it.
I agree, Connor. I believe it is indeed time to rank it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, we play games every month. And when we play these games, we rank them amongst the other games on the show. I just realized I fucked this up the way I wanted to present it, and I also don't know how it looks. So I'm going to change. No, I'm not going to change. I didn't set it up the way I should have. Prize thing, but I'm going to... All right. So I hope this reads well on screen. Remember, you can catch us youtube.com/@2pennygames. Stick with us, guys. We're trying our best here. Yeah, that reads fairly well. It might be backwards, though. So the list is as follows. Every game we've played so far, we have number 24, Fable. Number 23, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze. Number 22, Prey. Number 21, Tomb Raider. Number 20, Batman Arkham Asylum. Number 19, Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Number 18, Halo Combat Evolved. Number 17, Shadow of the Colossus. That now feels too low. I don't know why. But, I mean, when I compare it to the other games, never mind.
Yeah.
Beside the point. Number 16, Mario 64.
Immediately cancels that.
Yeah, Mario 64. Number 15, Resident Evil 4. Number 14, Portal 1. Number 13, Pokemon Soul Silver. Number 12, Severed. Number 11, Resident Evil HD. Number 10, Chrono Trigger. Number 9, Dishonored. Number 8, Metal Gear Solid. Number 7, Shovel Knight. Number 6, Portal 2. Number 5, Yakuza 0. Number 4, Hades. Number 3, Final Fantasy 7. Number 2, The Last of Us. And number 1, God of War Ragnarok.
It's wild that like after all this time, we've only had one direct sequel.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've played a sequel before we started the rule of like we're playing games in order. But yeah,
Sure.
That's gonna change soon. Anyways, gentlemen, Philip, I'm gonna actually jump to you, of course. Where
Me
would you
first.
like to start the bidding of where in the list Dead Cells goes?
It's a great question. I think I'm going to put this at the new number 18.
Damn.
Wow! Above Halo Combat Evolved, below Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you expound on that?
Yeah.
Mainly just because like I was looking through the list. I thought I knew before going in, but I've kind of lost the plot on exactly my thinking as to why. Beforehand, I should say. But I was kind of just looking through all these games, and I kind of just found myself pushing it further down and further down and further down and further down until I got to number 18, and I was kind of like, yeah, I mean that just seems like a suitable place because I think back to just how dated Halo felt to play. And I also think of Shadow of the Colossus and just how incredible of, granted we talked about how it's an incredible art piece, not so much of a game, but I think the parts of Shadow of the Colossus that are so good outshine the pieces of Dead Cells in my eyes.
Wow.
That's surprising.
Very well said.
'Cause Shadow of the Colossus just kind of is somewhat of a slog at points to get through. I mean, it's got great visuals, but great music, great atmosphere, but the gameplay isn't as tight as something like Dead Cells. I'm surprised you think it's worse.
Well, Connor, I'm gonna jump to you then. Where would you put this game on the list?
We had a conversation.
We did, but it's been a while since we talked.
It has.
Yeah.
It's been a while. Here's where I was originally going to put it, is a classic filter situation of it being below Resident Evil.
Yeah.
But we conversed, and you did kind of make an argument for Severed being above it.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, Severed has such a fun, simple gameplay system that allows you to do it really quickly on the go because you can play it on your phone. It's got a pretty, interesting story and interesting world that at least kept me interested. It kept me entertained and looking forward to what they're going to do with all of your dead family members. And so I kind of put that, I think Severed's better. And so the conversation then went where you were arguing that Pokemon Soul Silver, is it above it or below it? And you kind of were leaning towards...
Well, don't spoil
I'm
my
not
thing
pointing
here.
I'm not pointing to... yeah, I spoiled. Never mind. Too late. Point is, you could have
You know what I
changed.
mean?
Yeah.
And I was going to put it above Pokemon Soul Silver. Like,
Mhm.
no, it's not really. Like, they're both good games, but both of them exist in their own space, in their own genre. Roguelites, as they're called, and JRPGs, I think is a good thing to classify Pokemon as. Both of them, while they do their genres justice, both are very cookie cutter with them. And they don't really, stand out amongst the crowd.
Okay, Pokemon Soul Silver, you play 16 different. You can play 16 different badges. It's 2 regions in that game. Come on,
It's the same fucking combat thing every
It
goddamn
is,
time.
which
it
is
stands above the rest, though.
it is
Come
the
on.
same combat system, which, like I said, is pretty, cookie cutter. Very, very cookie cutter as far as JRPGs go.
It's a baby's first RPG.
Yeah.
It's allowed to be cookie cutter.
But
But this is
yeah,
it stands above the rest of the baby's first RPG.
But it does. but if you compare it to other turn-based RPGs of its era, it falls short.
yeah, which is the key issue with it. If it was early, I'd be able to okay, that's fine. I can work around it. But there was already so many other games that did it better.
Yeah.
That you can't really and with there's having such a simple gameplay system, you kind of don't have the excuse of it being an older game, which is not even super
Fine,
old.
I concede. Put it at the new number 14. I get it.
Well, you didn't let me finish. Oh wait, what'd you?
Just continue, please.
Point is, though, you're right. Soul Silver does have something to rope you in further. A whole second region, which I respect when games open themselves up like that after the base game concludes. Not to mention, when I hop back in it, I think I said this during the review, after not playing it for a couple weeks, I kind of was, I had the wind taken out of my sails. I didn't really want to play it that much. Pokemon Soul Silver, I know if I jump back into that, I'd look at that next region and go, time to go on a little journey. And I know it's going to have a good climax. And it's fun. Pokemon is popular for a reason. They're you like the Pokemon themselves. They're cute and whatnot. But they also function well enough in the gameplay that they're provided, even though it is cookie cutter. And so for those reasons, I'd put it at the new number 14. Above Portal, below Pokemon Soul Silver.
Excellent.
Yeah. I didn't have to disappoint you, Phil.
No, I'm not disappointed.
I guess that leads it to me.
It does.
So here's the thing. Connor, I was a lot like you, where when I started my playthrough, I was very high on Dead Cells, but the more I kept playing it, did keep falling. And I was like you in that the Resident Evil was the hard stop, because I think I've said it before, that's a tier switch.
Yes.
And I just don't think it goes in that tier. And so it was fighting Severed for a long time. And the more I kept playing, just by its nature of just kind of being a little longer and, more, wanting you to replay more, and how early I finished my first run and how little I felt like playing past that, even though I did, it fell below Severed for me. And then I was looking at the list a little harder, and I was more impressed with what Pokemon did than what Severed did. So it fell below Pokemon. And that's where I was going to stop for a while. But then I put the game down for like a week, went and played other shit, and I didn't think about it again until I was like, oh shit, we got a review in a couple of days. I should pick it up and play more. And yeah, I was not very entertained when I kept playing and kept playing and kept playing. Like its fuse burns out quickly. But it doesn't know when to say, hey, player, stop. Hades knows when to tell you to stop. For example. So it's not like the genre is holding it back. Of course, this game has a stopping point, but I don't want to get to that point. Like, you overstay your welcome, Dead Cells.
Yeah.
And because of that,
Portal.
I think it's at least below Portal. But now Phil has made an excellent argument where Shadow of the Colossus left such a greater impact on me than what Dead Cells did. And while I don't think I feel weird about putting it below Resident Evil 4 and Mario 64, because I genuinely enjoyed Dead Cells more, but I can fall back on my laurels of Resident Evil 4 and Mario 64 are way more important than Dead Cells is. And that's no offense to Dead Cells. Dead Cells is a good, even really good game. But I think where I would stop at Portal, in terms of my personal favoritism of the games, I like Dead Cells more than the games below it. I think at least the next 3 games, and arguably maybe even Halo, are more important than this game. So I'm gonna stop the buck with Phil. Phil's convinced me, and I'm gonna put this game. I'm gonna cast my vote right with him at the new number 18, above Halo Combat Evolved and below Shadow of the Colossus.
Damn. If I cared more about this game, I'd argue more. But yeah,
it's like
I just think it's because I made some good points.
You did. You made some good points.
No, you made horrible ones. Absolutely. I remember listening to what you were saying and thinking, I got to move as far away from Phil as possible.
Oh, yeah. Phil might get canceled after this show.
I wouldn't go that far.
Bring it on. Bring it on. But yeah, no, Phil, I'm right there with you. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it there, and that's where it shall lie. Dead Cells is the new number 18, above Halo Combat Evolved, below Shadow of the Colossus. What I'm nervous about is, in another month or two, we'll look back and go, why did we put Dead Cells so low? But I kind of feel like, I don't
think that's going to happen.
Had I put it above Portal or above Pokemon or above Severed, I feel like it would have been the opposite of like, why did we put Dead Cells so high? Yeah, why is that game so high? So I think I think in this case, playing it safe and casting it low, again, good game. Really good game. But I just don't think that's where Dead Cells deserves to be.
So you were talking about tiers earlier.
Yeah.
Resident Evil, definitive. I don't know if you agree with this, Phil. I think it's definitive, like, hey, this is A tier.
A tier and up, yeah.
Which, you see S tier starts somewhere?
For me personally, I would put that at the top of B tier, but I understand where you guys are coming from.
Yeah.
I know it's not, to me, it's not a bad game by any means. Me personally, y'all are gonna think this is weird. I don't think there's a bad game on this list.
No, we've said that before. So far, I still don't think we've encountered a bad game. I think.
Fine, yeah. Arkham Asylum is not a bad game.
To break it up, to me, Portal 2 is S tier, but Yakuza 0 is A tier. So I'm gonna say S tier starts at Hades, for me. But it's
I would agree with that. Yakuza 0, I think for me is top of A tier, and I think Portal 2, I would still say is below it.
I think B tier starts at 12 with Severed, and ends at Halo. I think Halo is the bottom of B tier.
Not top of C tier? That's where I thought we were leaning.
I'd put it at bottom. I think Uncharted is top of C tier.
I'm fine with. I would put Halo higher than like Shadow and Mario, but
are you putting Shadow of the Colossus in C tier?
No. My point is
that would be fucking wild to me.
No, yeah, I'm saying that's.
I'm kind of with what Tavin was saying, and like Halo is the bottom of B tier, Uncharted is the top of C.
Yeah, I'd give it that. Yeah.
And then I think the rest of the list.
I'm putting Arkham Asylum like in middle of B tier, but like that's just not how the list is laid out, you know.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. No, yeah, I think Arkham Asylum is a C tier game. But I think from there the rest of the list is C, except for Fable. I think Fable is the first and currently only D tier game.
D tier, yeah, I agree.
But we haven't had an F tier. You know, we haven't had a don't play this game.
Well, Arkham Asylum.
Shut the fuck up. No, it's not.
D tier. I said D tier.
Even like D tier, I wouldn't like drive someone away from D tier. I would just say, play it if you want, but you know, it's not my favorite thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone told me they were gonna play Fable, my first question would be why?
Yeah, I'd be like, really? But if they gave me like a reason, I'd be like, all right, yeah, sure, if you want.
I'd just say play Fable 2.
Would you? Because I don't think that game's gonna be much better.
God, you guys
honestly do not think so.
Very different game, I will say. Like, you think they're similar in terms of how they play? They really aren't.
I remember Fable 3 playing a lot like Fable 1.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, a little bit different. Like, magic is treated differently, and ranged attacks are treated differently.
I was a lot younger, but I remember enjoying my time with Fable 3.
Yeah, I do too. But again, I was a lot younger, so I don't know for sure. And I also got Fable 3 for free, so free means a lot more when you're 12 years old.
Games with gold, baby.
That
was the first one.
I would probably call Prey a D tier game, but I wouldn't call Donkey Kong that. But again, I want Donkey Kong higher. You know, it's like a weird thing where like I just have to pick and choose where I'm drawing lines. You know.
Yeah.
So. Because, again, like, there are games that I just feel differently about for different reasons. I think Shadow of the Colossus probably should be higher, but I have more fun with Resident Evil 4. So, there you go.
Yeah.
Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for the ranking. How would you gentlemen feel about it? Might make the ranking list a little too busy, so maybe we just kind of, like, just continue it as a conversation. But I kind of almost felt like drawing a little line and putting a little letter next to it to, like, maybe when the list gets longer and it takes too long to read it, then we start breaking it up into tiers.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I think when we start hitting like the 30s, you
know, that's exactly where I was thinking. So yeah, maybe right there is where we start putting official thoughts on that. But ladies and gentlemen, you kind of know where we're feeling in the future. Moving on to what we are playing for this next month, the month of July into August.
The month of Connor.
Ladies and gentlemen, of course.
Connor, baby.
Normally, we allow the sacred wheel, to select the game that we are playing. But we wanted a little bit more agency in what we are playing so that we could get to some of the classic titles that we all love. For example, last month we played Metal Gear Solid because it was my choice. It was my time to choose. So what we do is we alternate now between 1 month is the wheel, the next month is one of us, and it's a rotating cast member on who gets to choose. We go in the order of Connor, Phil, Tavin. Of course, last month I picked Metal Gear Solid. This month, the wheel picked Dead Cells. So now we are back to you, Connor, and you've been keeping it quite a mystery. I still don't know what. Even your roommate, Phil, we have talked about it. I've been trying to convince him to play one game or another, so I'm very curious. Phil, for shits and giggles, just so you're operating with the same amount of information I am, he did a little slip up the other day. I know it's not a Soulsborne game that we're playing. I know that much. But you want to do a little guess on what he's going to have us play?
Both of you do, because this is going to be secret from now on.
I have a pretty good guess because it's what he originally wanted us to play in January. And that's near Replicant.
I don't think it's near Replicant. I think I had one in my head and I kind of forgotten it. So I'm going to lean to Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines.
Well, this month, we don't really have any games we're reviewing. It's pretty open.
I mean, you're reviewing Shadow of the Erdtree next week.
Yeah, but that's almost done.
Yeah,
we're like almost done with that. So
yeah.
In July's, other than that,
I don't think I have any
games.
I don't think there's anything interesting for me coming out until August.
Let me take a look at the calendar here.
Well, we don't have to talk about the calendar, but I think Concord is the next game I'm interested in playing. And even that's like
A demo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Or like
Connor,
a beta, rather.
So, since it's pretty empty, I think it's an easy time to be able to play.
I want to stop you. I'm changing my vote to Final Fantasy VI. Go.
Fair enough. It's easy to play a long game.
Yeah.
It's the best time. And so, for that reason,
Yeah?
the game of the month that you guys are going to have to play
Where the fuck are we going?
is
Uh-huh.
Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. A short game because I want to use this month to try and catch up on things. Play as many other games as possible. Some from this year, some from later. 12, 14-hour game. Easy done. And then we can do what we want for the rest of the month.
All right. What is the name of the game?
Dark Messiah of Might and Magic.
Dark Messiah of
Yes.
Might and Magic.
The reason I chose this game, other than being just a fun game, I think you'll both have fun with it. I guess 3 reasons. It has something that you can choose to do in this game that is better than almost any other choice that is offered in video games. You'll know what it is later. The final, more objective reason is this is a game that served, at least from my experience, they might have made a game earlier that shaped the kind of games this company would go on to make in the future, which is Arcane. This is an old Arcane game. And after you play it, you guys will see, like, okay,
Rest
this
in
is
peace,
when they
Arcane
were...
Austin.
Yes, very much so. But
Yeah.
this is a good game where you can start to kind of see when Arcane was becoming Arcane as we know it.
It is currently on sale on
Yes.
Steam for $2.49.
And unfortunately, you are not getting the deal I got of buying it at 99 cents.
I don't
But it's good enough.
Any other platforms that's on?
Nope.
Steam and Xbox 360.
That's not going to do it for me. All right. Steam it is.
Yep.
Very well. Ladies and gentlemen, play along with us. Let us know how you felt about Dead Cells and the list in general down in the comments below. And then make sure you do your homework and play alongside with us for the next month. Dark Messiah of Might and Magic. Too many words. It's
Too long of a name.
Yeah. Very long.
I'm going to have to figure out how to shorten that. It's a fit in the list. But until next time, have a great time. Thank you so much for watching along with us. And gentlemen, say goodbye to the people.
Bye.
Bye.